Hello and welcome to another ICS Impulse video. Today we'll be talking about video recording and OtoSuite Vestibular. There's two different ways you can video record. One is video recording during the head impulse test. So if you look at the screen here, you can see that you can video record in one of two ways. The easiest way is to check the auto record box. If you have this box checked, then each time you start the head impulse test, a video will also be recorded of the eye. The other option is to do it manually, and that is to click the record button, and then you also have a stop button as well. One thing to know about the video recording is you have a couple of different options for frame rate, and these can be set up in the Head Impulse Options tab. So you can either video record at 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, or 120 frames per second. If you record at 60 or 120 frames per second, then you could play the video back in slow motion. Otherwise, if you only record at 30 frames per second, then you can only play back at normal speed. Of course, the more frames you use, the bigger the files are going to be. The other thing to consider is that you have two options when doing the test: pupil location and grayscale image. I personally prefer pupil location when I'm physically doing the head impulse test, but I don't video record every time. If you're going to be doing video recording along with the head impulse test, it obviously makes more sense to use the grayscale image. The grayscale image shows you the eye just exactly as it's shown here on the screen. If you use pupil location, all you get is a white pupil on a black background, and that won't be as useful. The other way you can video record is using the video only mode. And the first way we're going to show you how to do this is using full image, which probably is more useful than using the region of interest. So here you see the record video. Now, if you have version 1.0, that's going to look very different than this. This new setup is released in OtoSuite Vestibular version 1.2. So let me show you a couple of the options here. First, at the top here, on the Record tab, you have full image and region of interest. So how do you want to record? Next thing down here, you have eye record speed. So do you want to record at 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second? So with full image video, you only have the options of 30 or 60. Again, if you use 60 frames per second, you can play it back at normal speed or in slow motion. Then you have room video recording. If you have purchased the webcam option, then you can have the webcam on. And so here you see the eye. This is the eye video, and here is the webcam video down here. So you have the option of turning that webcam video on or off. Then what speed do you want that webcam video to be collecting at? 15 frames per second or 30 frames per second? Again, the more frames, the bigger the file. And the other option you have for the webcam is whether you want that webcam collected in color or in grayscale. And what I show you here is grayscale. Again, color is going to give you a bigger file as well, but you do have all those options. And then if you want to make remarks about the video, you just click on the Video Remarks tab here. So to start the video, you click Record. To stop the video, you click Stop. So again, during playback, if you record at 60 frames per second, it can be played back at normal speed or in slow motion. And if you record at 30 frames per second, it can only be played back at normal speed. Now, this is what the full image looks like. Your other option is region of interest. When you record in head impulse, all it's doing is recording the region of interest, like you see here. All the other options still apply. The only difference is with the region of interest, you get the option of 120 frames per second. The other thing I didn't point out on the last screen is that this compress eye video, if you want the eye video compressed, obviously to keep your file size smaller, you want to have that box checked. And that's new with version 1.2, compressing the eye video, and then obviously using the webcam as well. So again, in playback, if you record at 60 or 120 frames per second, it can be played back at normal speed or in slow or slower motion. And if you record at 30 frames per second, the only option is to play it back in normal speed. Now let's talk about playback. So here's the Playback tab. So if you look at the top here, there's the Record tab and the Playback tab. If you want to go to Record, click on the top Record tab. If you want to go to Playback, you click on the top Playback tab. Playback, you have a couple of options. Now this is going to be determined based on how you collected your video in the first place. So let's first look at this. You see down here, here's the date and time of the video collected. it said it was collected in video only mode. If it was collected in head impulse mode, the type would be HI. How many frames per second it was collected with. So this video was collected with 30 frames per second, and what the file size is. And it's quite large because not only is it the eye video, but it's the webcam video as well. So that file size is a combination of both of those two files, the eye and the room video. And then if you made any remarks, they would be here, or you can type remarks directly in that box. So up top, where it says playback speed, because this video was collected at 30 frames per second, the only option I have is normal. If I collected at 60, I would have the option of normal and slow, and if I collected at 120, I would have the option of normal, slow, and slower. And then the room video playback. Do I want to play back the room video from the webcam or not? I can turn that on or off. When I play back, then I have the options of play, pause, stop, and delete video. So now let's go to the next screen here. This just again reiterates what's in that file. You have the date, time for that video, the type, which I told you, if it says HI, it was collected during a head impulse test. If it's VO, it was collected as a video only mode. The frames per second. The other thing I didn't point out was this unique identifier here, this little exclamation point. If you check that, it's going to mark that file as being unique. And I'll show you where that shows up in the patient list. But you could use this if you were maybe using this file for research, or there was something very unique about the disorder of the patient and you wanted to make it special so that you could easily find it again. The file size, which we talked about, and then the remarks. Let's talk a little bit about deleting videos. Again, the file size will vary based on how many frames per second you're recording the eye at, whether it's compressed or not compressed, whether you're doing a webcam video along with it, whether it's color or not color, whether it's 15 frames per second or 30 frames per second in the webcam, or whatever frames per second you're using in the eye video. So there's a lot of factors that determine the file size. If you're using 120 frames per second uncompressed, with a color webcam at 30 frames per second, that's the largest file you're going to have. They are going to get quite large, especially if you record for multiple minutes, half hour, whatever. So you really want to look at that file size. All these videos are stored in a video folder, and they're all identified uniquely, so they're easy to find if you went into that video folder. But the thing is that you could be taking up a lot of space on your hard drive by saving all these videos. So what I would recommend is, if it's not important, delete it after you do it. And that'll save a lot of your hard drive space. So when you go into the existing patient list and you look at all your patients, if you look over here, we've got the little box highlighted, and you can see that the last one, W. Welsh, had a video recorded. And I had checked that unique identifier for that video. And that's why the little exclamation point shows up. So it'll tell you whether there's been a video recorded. Now that video means any video. So if you recorded a video in head impulse, or you recorded a video in video only mode, it's going to have the check for you. The next thing that we implemented in version 1.2 was the ability to export a combined video. So let's say you're doing research, or you want to present to a group of people information that you found on a particular patient. And you want to be able to take that video, both the eye video and the webcam video, and export them as one file. And then be able to put that into your PowerPoint or whatever program you're using for presenting. What you would do is you would come in and you would highlight that patient, and then you would export it. You can only export one patient at a time. And this is basically because it's going to export all of that patient's videos. And again, if you've done eye videos and webcam videos, they get quite large. It can take a while for them to export into one file. So it's just easier if you do it one patient at a time, and that's why we've limited it to one patient at a time. But it's a really excellent feature for if you're doing presentations, and you can show the webcam so they can see what the patient was doing as well as the eye movement at the same time. Regarding file sizes and more information about the combined iRoom video, you want to refer back to the reference manual. So let's go into the OtoSuite vestibular software and look at playback mode. So this video was recorded at 60 frames per second, and it's with the webcam on grayscale and the eye video, and the file size is 40 megabytes. And this video is about 2 minutes long. So when we play it back, the eye and the room video are actually sequenced together. So now let's hit the play button and watch the video. And we're playing this back at normal speed. So if you watch the webcam along with the eye, you can see when I look right and left, the eye's moving. So they're definitely in sequence with each other, the webcam and the eye video. And again, this is normal speed. Now let's play it back in slow motion. Let's hit play. And again, the videos will still be synchronized together. And they're both being played back in slow motion. So that's how the video only mode works when you record the eye and with the webcam. And again, the webcam is a separate purchasable option.